This is a rather heavy printer. This is something. Let's, so one thing is nice, I think this might be the very first Anycubic printer to do this. Wow. I would have liked to have seen that on the M7 Pro, but I'm happy to see it on at least this printer. That's all metal, and that's metal. A lot of metal. I'm happy to see that. I'm not a big fan of the plastic printers, so more metal. We've got USB, plastic scraper, tools, and Wi-Fi cable. We've got the, it looks like this is gonna have a pump with it because this is the pump attachment scraper. That's a really narrow scraper for the size of this printer. Of course, everyone knows I use different scrapers than that, so we don't want that. The user manual, who cares? Anycubic has this guy right here. I love this. It's a little longer, so it's easier to kind of get in there and level and work with. I've also noticed a lot of prints are coming on the printer these days because they have internal storage, which is really cool. It took a while to get here. And the new Anycubic printers, and I'm pretty sure this one has it as well, the ability to transfer files on your local network. So you can just open up like a file system through the Anycubic app and just drag and drop your files right on it, which is really cool. Ooh, look at that build plate. This is massive. The M3 Premium versus the M7-Max, and we see there's a bit of a difference there. This is a big build plate, but yeah, it's not quite the same. But I mean, it makes sense. This is a large format printer. This isn't. This printer, by the way, this build plate is bigger than most of the build plates within its same size. Ooh, I like that. That is a hefty, lots of metal in there. We got a plastic covering. We've got the, well, you can't really see when we turn it. Pump, big piece of metal, some chonky rails. Those are the chonkiest rails I've ever seen on a 3D printer. The lead screw is not a ball lead screw, but that is still a thick, heavy lead screw. Just if a lead screw has ball bearings doesn't mean it's instantly better. There's, of course, high quality and low quality of each, and there's some overlap. This guy, used to work in a data center for years, so really good at opening up power cables. Oh, there we go. No power switch this time. On the M7 Pro, there's a power switch, and you have to hold the button down. This one, just hold the button down. I do like this hood. Ooh, that's smooth. That's heavy. I mean, it's big, so I guess it makes sense. Some stoppers here for it, and some rubber pads, which is nice. I do like that. This does not move, which tells me this does not have auto leveling. If this doesn't have auto leveling, I'm happy. I hate auto leveling. It is the bane of my existence for these new printers, and I hate it so much. A heater built into the vat, something we've been asking for as a standard for a long time. I know the M7 Pro has it, but it has it with a pump. This has no pump, it's just a nice big vat. The heater goes from 20 degrees to 40 degrees Celsius, but its default setting is 25. So if you want to go in a little bit hotter, you have to make sure to go in there and change that on the front panel. There's one thing that I noticed, and that is that the bottom of the hanger is about 60 millimeters lower than the build plate. So just make sure there's enough clearance between the bottom of your print and how much lower the hanger is from the build plate, or you're going to smash some stuff. There was one solution that I offered Anycubic. My suggestion was when a print was finished, there was a picture of a hanger. If you clicked on the hanger, it would automatically go up to the top. Or if your print was too large where there wouldn't be enough clearance, it would give you a warning letting you know that you shouldn't try to use the hanger. They let me know that they like that idea and they're looking into implementing it. So one thing that I like to do is I like to cover up my printers with a protective film. I'm trying out this, it's like a window protection for construction. It's very hard to get on, and obviously I suck at it. But if any resin gets on this, it wipes right off. I also have blue right here. If you watch any of my stuff, you'll see I like to put tape there. That's why when you take this off, if any drip gets down here, it doesn't get underneath the vat and on the LCD and ruin a very beautiful printer. Now for some of the boring stuff you can find on the website, let's talk about the specs. The LCD is 13.6 inches. It's a 7K LCD. The pixels are square at 46 UM. That's all that matters, but hey, let's give you some more. The resolution is 4680 by 3600. Again, that doesn't really matter. We only care about that 46 UM square pixel. The front LCD is 4.3 inches. Hooray. The build volume is 297.5 millimeters length, 164 millimeters width, and 300 millimeters height, which pretty much means that the length and the height are pretty much the exact same size. It weighs 24 kilograms. I don't know what that is in poundage. Let's see. What is 24 kilograms in pounds? Basically 53 pounds. It's heavy, it's all metal. This is supposed to have ACF 2.0, where it's supposed to do a little bit less damage. As you can see from these pictures, I don't see a difference. To me, it looks just like regular ACF film, where the damage is the same as across the board. And if you don't know this, when you run ACF, there's really only one setting in the entire slicer that you can actually adjust. And that's that very first stage of lift on TSMC. After that, the type of film you use makes no difference at all, like at all. And you have to increase the lift height a little bit more with ACF because it's a little bit more stretchy than NFEB. But I think most people get faster numbers using ACF because for some reason they will increase all of the settings and they'll reduce light off delay. This obviously damages the quality, it damages the print, but it looks really good on paper that you can print super fast. This printer utilizes a COB light source with a Fresnel lens. They say it's factory calibrated to achieve 3% uniform. As you can see, this printer has great uniformity, the best I've ever tested, especially when you consider its high UV power output and its size. It's really difficult to get a printer this well built. It's not quite what they advertised, but really it's good enough. To get this data, I take many points on every printer 3 times and then average out the results. And full disclaimer, my settings might not be perfect because I'm still using the Box UV light detector. And until I want to make the big investment to buy a better testing unit, my data is going to be a little bit flawed. However, I am doing my best to make it as consistent and reliable as possible. Now let's talk about UV power. If you don't know this, you cannot change the UV power on the M7 line series of printers. However, you could on the M3. If you didn't know this, if you click the tools button, I think it's 5 or 7 times, you get a secret menu where you can change the UV power rating. If you don't know why this is important, let's look at these resins. Starting here on my left, these are the high-speed resins and generally cure in 1 second or less per layer. On these ones, it can be helpful to lower the UV power to about 60% to give you a little bit more time to get better calibration. And here on the right, these are industrial resins or very high strength. You're also going to find your dental resins in the same category. These can take 5 to 10 or even longer seconds per layer to cure. So on these ones, you'd want the UV power at 100% to cure them as quickly as possible. I have brought this up with Anycubic and they say they're working on it and they should come up with the ability to alter the UV power in the future on the M7 series of printers. I don't know if it's going to be on the printer or in the slicer or both. Personally, I prefer it's in the slicer. That way I can change the UV power on my resin profile for each resin individually and get everything properly dialed in. On the topic of slicers, while making this video, Lychee Slicer doesn't yet support the M7-Max. However, we're working on it and it should be supported by the time you get yours. There's a few things about this pump I want to talk about. The first thing is it's a USB connection, but you don't want to plug anything into this, into the printer, unless it's an Anycubic part, because they can pull too much power and damage the printer. The things that can go in here is either the pump or the air filter, but personally I wouldn't recommend to ever use the air filter. The reason is it's just not big enough to actually remove any VOCs and gives you a false sense of security. The next most important thing is this lid here. Now this lid is only designed to fit in any cubic bottle or any bottle with the same neck size. I'm not sure which ones fit, but I know of course the Anycubic ones do. I've talked to Anycubic about them making an adapter, but as of right now, I don't think that's a product that's going to be coming out either ever or anytime soon. As far as cleaning out the pump, that's not the worst thing in the world. You can run cleaning fluid through it, or you can run a little bit of resin of your next batch through it if you want. I've seen some users a little bit hesitant because they maybe not trust the pump or a moving mechanism, but it does have a year warranty on it, so if anything happens to the pump, Anycubic will replace it for free. So now I want to add the printer to my app. So I'm going to click on Anycubic App. There's a barcode there. On the app, I click on More, Add Printer, Scan. This is going to scan the barcode. It'll add it to my app now. Printer added successfully. All right, now from here, now that I've seen the M7-Max, what you want to do is come down here and go to Print Function. And this is where we see a lot of the cool tools here. This is where we get failure detection. Of course, this if the printer doesn't detect any pill force or pressing force, it's going to trigger that error. Off compensation. This is what happens when the printer pushing down and it fills viscous resin. It's going to increase the light off delay. Intelligent release. This is where when the printer is moving up, it's going to stop going up when it fills the print release from the FEP. Automatic feed. This has to do with the pump. Lift Z-axis to top. I don't like this because what happens here is when the build plate is finished, it will go all the way to the top. And what happens is the resin likes to statically charge to the side to the hood. Preheat heating, that's really cool. Gives maybe 5 minutes to heat up the vat before it starts the print. And what's also cool is from here, we can actually start a print. So we can go into print, let's say local disk. All right, we can see that there's stuff on the USB and we can start the print right from here. So we just hit print. All right, we can hear the printer going. It was pretty quick. It didn't find any resin. That's because I don't have any resin in the vat. So I'm just gonna hit ignore. It's doing the preheating. I'm gonna tell that to skip. You can see right here, it got a yellow light on the resin detection. If I pull up the app again, you can actually see right here, it's got one error. It told us, well, it failed the resin detection. So the app is updating while the print is going. So you can get the same information on the app or on the printer. You can see we can change all sorts of settings right on the printer after the print is started. Right here we can see the print details. We can see kind of about it, what's going on. Of course, now the print is going, it's a little bit loud. While the print is going, we can change all these settings right on the app. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to say 1 second for now. And we're going to save those changes. So now my bottom exposure is going to be just 1 second. It's going to speed this printer up by quite a bit. All right, now I'm going to simulate what happens when it's trying to pull up. I'm going to simulate that intelligent lift height. So I'm putting pressure on it. It's going to go up. It's going to go up a little bit more. And I let go. It's going to start going back down. So that's basically saying, hey, it hasn't felt that release of the film yet. It's going to keep going up until it feels it. It's going to be the same if I try to keep it from going down. It's going to say, hey, there's a lot of pressure here. And it's going to wait and wait until I let go. And then it's going to continue the print because now it's saying, hey, there's no more pressure here. And it's good on the off compensation. Now the settings for the app can be found on the printer itself. And all you do is you click on any print, go into the print functions, and you can turn on or turn off these functions here. When you turn them on or turn them off here, it's forever. It's not just for this one print, it's from this print and any print going forward. And from here you have the print log, so you can see kind of what you've done here. You can click on edit, and you can grab all these, delete them. You can do the same thing from your USB. You can click edit, you can click menu, you can copy, delete. I like having the option to be able to select multiple and interact with them. So that little tool right there, that edit tool right there is pretty nice. Thank you, Anycubic, for adding that. Looking at the bottom of the printer, you've got a switch here between 115 and 230, depending on your power system. These feet are also non-adjustable. For something this large, I think adjustable feet would have been nice, but not necessarily that important. And if I remove this plate right here, which is held on by 3 screws on the top, 2 screws on the bottom, very secure. Remove the plastic shroud. Now you can see the part here. This is how it's able to determine the push force and the peeling force of the printer. This part is cast. This is a separate part that is milled. You can see the milling marks. Here you can see the extrusion marks for the casting. And there at the bottom, you can see where the sensor sits on the entire unit. I'd say overall, this is a pretty well-designed part, pretty hefty. Especially I like that they got some pretty large bolts holding on to these very massive rails and rail system. Moving to the left side, there's the Z-off switch. If you don't know what this does, there's a piece of metal that goes down on the build plate. That's how the printer is aware that the build plate is to the home position. Generally, if you install a mag plate, often this needs to be adjusted. However, I'm not sure this can be adjusted. And here as well, I don't see a way that this can be adjusted either. You can see here that it's raised and that there's some bumps around it, preventing any resin spills from getting down inside the printer. This entire gasket seals all the way around. These holes here don't go all the way down into the plate. The rest of this is a solid piece of metal that goes all the way over the edge. The only place that resin could get down inside of here would be through these tiny screw holes where the vat goes down, but you can see they're raised up to help prevent that. One thing I did notice, and maybe it was only on my unit, but these screws right here, a couple of them were a little bit loose. So what I ended up doing was just taking them out, applying a little bit of Loctite in a horribly messy fashion. I put them back in. I didn't torque them up too tight because there was some plastic here I didn't want to break. I let Anycubic know of the findings, and they said they will go to their QA and address the issue there. So hopefully on your unit, those bolts have been either properly tightened or at best, properly tightened with a little bit of Loctite. I also want to know, how flat is this build plate? Now, comparative to others, it's not the flattest I've seen, but it's definitely not the worst. It's somewhere in the middle, and especially for the build plate at this size, I think that's more than adequate. I had a few failures when I was using a resin that is my own mix that is very, very high precision. I had to increase the UV exposure time to kind of make stuff stick to that center where there's a little bit of bowing. But for the most part, this build plate, like I said, especially for the size, is quite flat and is milled out quite well. Yours may be different from mine. I've seen from every single manufacturer that these build plates are not always flat. But if you're getting fails in the center, do this little check, see if that's what's going on. And if so, you may just need to increase your UV exposure time even more. What really helps with this one is Z offset. This printer doesn't have the ability to set the Z offset yet, but I have been working with Anycubic on that one. And we are really, really hoping there's going to be an update with the ability to add and adjust your Z offset in a very beautiful, amazing way. And I was curious to see how much one sheet of resin from a vat clean weighed on a printer of this size. Of course, this will change depending on the density of your resin. If you don't know this, not all resins have the same density, so it won't weigh the same exactly. If I put this on here, I'm getting 19.3, missed a little bit, flaked off. 19.4 grams, and again, that's kind of an average, but yeah, you could probably about expect around that much resin usage for every single vat clean you have to do. That is the one downside to having a printer of this size. The way this works is it's got these two different feet. There's labeled as A or B. B is for any build plate that's basically slanted on a single angle. A is for the build plate that's kind of more like a pitched roof where there's a different angle on it. The feet are interchangeable between either one, where basically, and they're also numbered. So this one is A3 right there, and then it just kind of clips right on like that. And then you just set a weight on there and it will apply the weight evenly across the build plate, and then you can level it really easy. Once this thing is level, you shouldn't have to touch it pretty much ever again. It's going to be really, really solid. And then there's some interesting things about this printer as well. For the first 50 layers, your minimum light off delay is 5 seconds. So it'll override anything less than 5 and add 5 seconds light off delay. If you are not using TSMC, so you're only using one speed to go up and one speed to go down, the printer is automatically going to double your height. So if you put in 4 millimeters, it's going to do 8. If you're using TSMC, that doesn't apply. For layers 1 through 10, it's going to put a speed limit 6 millimeters per second. You can't go any faster than 6 millimeters per second for the first 10 layers. There's supposed to be a speed limit between layer 11 and 50. However, in my testing, I've shown that the actual speed limit of this printer is 10 millimeters per second, or 600 millimeters per minute. And it doesn't matter if it's layer 11 through 300, 400, that seems to be the speed limit. And just like some of the new Elegoo printers, this does multi-cure exposure, but they call it RERF. It's done a little bit differently. If you do a Google search on Anycubic RERF instructions, you'll see instructions on how to run that type of calibration test. Now, what I want to see is, will this stop, or will it go all the way to the top and crash? Not that I want to break my printer, but you know, for science, I'll try to stop it if I think it's going to be scary. But let's see what it does. We're getting pretty close to the top here. So is it going to stop or is it going to crash? Ooh, okay, one more time. Okay, so it stopped without me touching anything. And there's an alert on the printer. The alert says exceeded upper limit. So this printer will not kill itself. It will actually stop. Thank you, Anycubic. Feel free to skip this part, but I'm doing some A/B testing for how loud these printers are. Now let's talk about anti-aliasing. Now what you can see here in this picture is that 46UM really affects our ability to print that shield. You can see it's pretty much just cut off flat. The reason for that being is we pretty much hit a threshold of the quality of the pixel of this LCD. However, if we apply anti-aliasing has the ability to do half or quarter pixels, especially a screen with a high contrast ratio, to get details better than the quality of the LCD. Now, if we compare this to one of the printers that I think is the most accurate, being the Mini 8KS, you can obviously still see the Mini 8KS does better, but it's not unbelievably significantly better once anti-aliasing is on between the two, making this printer perform better than it should on paper. And that's very important. When looking at statistics or data on paper, you're not really getting the entire picture. You really need to test the printer and use it and see how it works under different conditions with different resin, properly calibrated. Once all that's done, then you're really going to be able to make printers shine well beyond their specs on paper, especially a well-designed, high-quality printer, which I think this is definitely in that category. And using these prints right here, this is a Z-Stablity test. I wanted to test the stability of the printer as well as the heater. Does the heater affect the stability? And as you can see from these pictures here, the heater does not affect the stability, as well as this printer is very stable. The amount of lines on this one is very, very minimal, especially when you compare it to other printers, especially printers of this size. I'm really just looking for the temperature changes during a print. I did one without the vat heater, one with the vat heater, and I did it again with the vat heater, but doing a real print. What you'll see is that if I'm doing a bigger print, there's going to be more heat. What this data shows is that this vat heater is working very well and very consistently. No ups and downs in temperatures anywhere. So yes, very good design by Anycubic. Now let's talk about the print that I did for this printer to kind of show it off outside of the, all the little calibration pieces. This was a 1-year kind of reward for Flesh of the Gods. I really love their minis. I think their stuff is really well designed. Now with this particular print, I made a mistake. And unfortunately, I don't have the time to fix it. You'll see his wing is missing half of it and part of his tail is missing. If I didn't point it out, you might not have noticed it, but I don't want the printer or anything like that to get my mistake. My mistake was I had been printing calibration prints on this thing about a month, and I went to print this thing, and what I forgot to do was increase the UV exposure on the burn-in layers. I left it like a small piece, which doesn't need very much because I want those things to scrape off really easy. So I left it really, really low. They all kind of mostly stayed on there, but there was some lifting, which caused some layer lines and some stuff to flatten out. And all this fit in one print. It was a tiny bit tight, but it all fit, and that's kind of what I was looking for. Or if you're doing minis, you can print a whole bunch of minis on a single build plate. And that's why I think printer like this, that's who it's for. Individuals who want to print a lot of small things, a really, really big thing that won't fit, or save time and print a model, such size all in one go and not have to do multiple prints for it. Since this was sent to me for free, not to do a review on, I'm doing this on my own. It was sent as a technical advisor. And now a word from my sponsor. If you could add the following information, let everybody know that Anycubic's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales are about to start. And if I have an affiliate link, just to know that the Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales, it seems like Anycubic is going to be doing something pretty cool. So go check that out. Right now it sells for $899, but if you pre-order it, you get it for $799, $100 off. Also, if you pre-order it early, you get extra goodies depending on when you pre-order it. You can check out the website to see what those goodies are, but they're going to be like resin, extra release films, but also $799 for a printer this big and heavy. Like I bet 25% of that is in shipping costs alone. That doesn't make sense to me. I kind of think maybe they're losing money on the printer and they're making it back on resin. So I guess definitely go check out their Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales so you can, buy the printer and support Anycubic, to stay in business or something. I don't know how they're getting away with it for that price. If you're looking for a big printer, I really highly recommend you look at this one. It has been really enjoyable to use and I really love it, which is something I haven't said about too many printers lately, but this one definitely fits the category of I recommend it. Well, I think that about covers it for the Anycubic M7-Max. The big brother to the M7 or the M7 Pro, and like I said earlier, what I think the M7 Pro should have been. Also, if you could, please like and subscribe to this video and to my YouTube channel. It's really gonna help me out a lot to get early samples of printers like this so I can really do these deep dives. They do take a really long time, but it's a lot of fun and I hope you enjoy them. Also, thank you for watching and have a good day.